the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, which encompasses the boroughs of Manhattan and the Bronx in New York City, along with Dutchess, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, and Westchester counties. The office prosecutes cases involving violations of federal laws, and represents the interests of the United States government and its agencies in criminal and civil matters. The office investigates and prosecutes a broad array of criminal conduct, of every conceivable magnitude, even when the conduct arises in distant places. Today, the office is at the forefront of many important areas of criminal law enforcement, including terrorism, white-collar and cybercrime, mortgage fraud, public corruption, gang violence, organized crime, international narcotics trafficking and civil rights violations. Similarly, the office litigates among the most complex and significant civil cases the Department of Justice handles, from large affirmative civil fraud cases to cases in the environmental, healthcare, immigration, and bankruptcy areas, as well as cases implicating classified information.
June 20, 2024. 2 members of Brooklyn drug crew sentenced to 30 and 20 years in prison, in connection with April 2021 murder of a rival crew member. As members of a violent drug crew in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood in Brooklyn, the defendants also trafficked drugs and possessed firearms. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, announced that Denzel Mackens, A/K/A Put, and Darren Samuels, A/K/A Klepto, were sentenced today to 30 and 20 years in prison, respectively, for trafficking drugs, possessing firearms, and participating in the murder of Felton Durant, Jr. on April 25, 2021. Mackens and Samuels were members of a drug crew based in Brooklyn that distributed crack cocaine on a regular basis from 2019 to 2022. Mackens and Samuels both carried firearms in connection with their drug trafficking and participated in the killing of Durant, who was shot to death when Mackens and Samuels, together with other members of their drug crew, set off across Brooklyn for the purpose of hunting down and killing the leader of a rival drug crew. Mackens previously pled guilty to drug trafficking conspiracy and firearms possession on November 28, 2023. Samuels previously pled guilty to drug trafficking conspiracy on November 21, 2023. U.S. District Judge Lewis A. Kaplan accepted both guilty pleas and imposed today's sentences. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said. On April 25, 2021, Felton Durant was shot to death in broad daylight on a weekend afternoon over a drug dispute. Both Denzel Mackens and Darren Samuels participated in that brutal killing, which took place in the middle of a busy public housing development in South Brooklyn. Because of the hard work of the NYPD and the career prosecutors of this office, Mackens and Samuels have now both been held responsible for this heinous crime. I remain committed to devoting every resource needed to target gun violence in this city. To be clear, as I have said before and will now say again, we are not going to give up any neighborhood, anywhere in this city to drug violence. According to the charging instruments, public filings, and statements made in court, from 2019 to 2022, Mackens and Samuels were members of a drug crew that operated in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Bedford-Stuyvesant, selling large quantities of crack cocaine in retail transactions. Mackens and Samuels each carried firearms on multiple occasions in connection with their drug trafficking. For example, in January 2020, Mackens used a firearm to fire multiple shots at multiple fleeing persons on the street. He later possessed additional firearms that the New York City Police Department, NYPD, seized from him in October 2020 and October 2021. In August 2020, Samuels possessed a firearm that the NYPD seized from him, together with a quantity of crack cocaine. In addition, in April 2021, both Mackens and Samuels were carrying firearms as they traveled within Brooklyn from Bedford-Stuyvesant to Red Hook, where they planned to locate and kill the leader of a rival drug crew, together with other members of their drug crew. Mackens and Samuels found Durant a member of the rival drug crew, but not the leader, and Durant was shot and killed on site. Later, in January 2022, while members of the NYPD attempted to arrest Mackens. For the charges in this case, Mackens tried to flee law enforcement in a car. An attempt which ended when Mackens ran into a 77-year-old woman, causing her grievous injury. In addition to their prison terms, Mackens, 32, of Brooklyn, New York, and Samuels, 36, of Brooklyn, New York, were sentenced to 5 years and 3 years of supervised release, respectively. Mr. Williams praised the outstanding investigative work of the NYPD and thanked the Kings County District Attorney's Office for its assistance in this case. This case is being handled by the office's Narcotics Unit. Assistant U.S. Attorney Thomas John Wright is in charge of the prosecution. June 18, 2024. Bronx man convicted of December 2021 murder and attempted robbery in Aqueduct Park Walkway. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, announced today the conviction of Ricardo Ferguson, A/K/A Maybach, for the December 5, 2021 murder of Robert Brown, Sr. inside of the Aqueduct Park Walkway in the University Heights neighborhood of the Bronx. Ferguson shot Brown in the head and attempted to steal crack cocaine and money from Brown's pockets during a dispute over drug sales. The defendant was found guilty following a 6-day trial before U.S. District Judge Richard M. Berman. According to the allegations in the indictment and evidence at trial, Ferguson and others participated in a conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine in the vicinity of the Aqueduct Park Walkway in the University Heights neighborhood of the Bronx. In the months leading up to the murder, Ferguson and his co-conspirators threatened Robert Brown, Sr. because Brown had been selling bags containing larger quantities of crack cocaine than the other dealers in the park. On December 5, 2021, Ferguson and a co-conspirator attacked and attempted to rob Brown in the Aqueduct Park Walkway. During the attempted robbery, Ferguson pulled out a gun and shot Brown in the head. Brown was 63 years old at the time of the murder. Ferguson, 38, of the Bronx, New York, was convicted today of conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, attempted Hobbs Act robbery, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, murder through the use of a firearm, which carries a maximum sentence of life in prison, and using and carrying a firearm in furtherance of drug trafficking, which was brandished and discharged, which carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years in prison and a maximum sentence of life in prison. The statutory minimum and maximum sentences are prescribed by Congress and provided here for informational purposes only, as any sentencing of the defendant will be determined by the judge. Ferguson is scheduled to be sentenced by Judge Berman on October 9, 2024. Mr. Williams praised the outstanding investigative work of the New York City Police Department, NYPD, the special agents and NYPD task force officers from the Special Investigations Division, assigned to the Southern District of New York, and the New York/New Jersey high-intensity drug trafficking area analysts.
Equality before the law, also known as equality under the law. Equality in the eyes of the law, legal equality, or legal egalitarianism, is the principle that all people must be equally protected by the law. The rule of law is a political ideal that all citizens and institutions within a country, state, or community are accountable to the same laws, including lawmakers and leaders. It is sometimes stated simply as no one is above the law.